Well, how are you doing? This video is going to be titled 7 over 6 of a radius keeps debunking the globe model. This is going to be very simplistic, but it's something sometimes the most simple things are often the things that we look straight past. And when it comes to 7 over 6 or what what it is, what it isn't, I should say, is refraction. It has nothing to do with light. It has nothing to do with temperature. It has nothing to do with density of air. Nothing to do with a change in a medium, Snell's law, anything else. Nothing to do with any of that. It's actually a physical change in the size of a globe Earth. So what they need to do is give you the impression that you're seeing something in a horizontal, simply because the globe Earth has increased in size. That's basically the absolute truth of it, right? So their globe Earth is too small, never matches reality. Never. I've yet to see any observation, regardless of the weather conditions, where the horizon or anything else in the observation ever matched a globe Earth with a radius of 3959 miles. You'll never ever get that. They always have to add in as much of their 7 over 6 or and more than as much of it as they can. They always have to do that. So there'll never be an observation where they're not trying to add as much refraction as what they call refraction as possible. But really what it is they're trying to inflate their physically inflate the size of their globe to match something. But one of the one thing they don't take into account, and it just came to me there, something about it was bothering me, because I know that with 7 over 6 hour, right, standard nonsense, right, the 1.1508 ratio between nautical and statute miles won't work, right? It only works for the 3959 radius. It won't work for the 7 over 6 radius, which is 4618. So 3959 mile radius, if you're going to take angles from the center, you will be able to, along the longitude lines, uh, convert from nautical to statute miles, right? So straight or curved along the longitude lines, once they stay equal in length, you will always be able to uh, convert from nautical to statute at the rate of 1.1508, right? At all times at that ratio. But when they increase the size of their globe, which they always have to, it's constantly way bigger, then that ratio doesn't work, right? It it doesn't work because you're increasing the length of the longitude lines. So it doesn't work. The ratio changes. So you won't have 69.048 or whatever it is statute miles per degree. You will have over 80 statute miles per degree. And that's just with just 7 over 6R, not more than 7 over 6R, which they often have to add. But I've made a video on that already, so I don't need to go into that. It's already there, back a few videos from this, right? Where I think it's called 7 over 6R debunks the globe model. But this one is going to be called something similar, but it's a continuation of the debunk of the globe model. Okay, in front of us we have this famous picture, right? Now, this is not new. Every single observation ever is a black swan for their model, simply because they have to claim that the globe they have to claim 7 over 6R. So the horizon is never going to be where they need it to be to match a globe Earth with a radius of 3,959 miles. It's always further than that. Always. Every observation I've ever seen over the past 7 years, no matter what it was, they always have to add in as much 7 over 6R as possible. And they want to argue with us about refraction over the years. They're always trying to argue with us about refraction. What they try and do is hijack actual refraction and try and claim that for themselves, when really what they're doing is extending the size of their globe. They're inflating it. So if you can imagine you have a balloon and you inflate it, it's half of you have it inflated and you blow extra air into it, then it becomes bigger. And that's what they always have to do. They're always having to modify the size of their globe to fit whatever observation they're trying to make it fit. And they're always not using a radius of 3959 miles. They're never. It's always a globe out that's way bigger than that, right? Now, this obviously observation here is just the most famous of these observations. I've taken loads of them. Everyone who ever takes an observation of the sea, once there's not a fog there, the horizon will always be in the wrong place for the globe. Always, right? But this one here, they had to claim that there was, they said it was massive refraction, right? This is what their explanation for this was. Now, it debunked them by saying refraction debunked them, because it was an admission that the horizon was not a geometric location, something they had treated it as for a long time, and people were taught in school for a long time that it was a geometric location, when it's only an optical phenomena. It's not geometric. No, you can't sail over an optical phenomena. It's purely an optical location. So by claiming a refraction, they were debunking themselves. Now, we know this. This is an old thing. We know this. It's a couple of years old at this stage. We know every time they said refraction, they were literally debunking themselves. But they kept saying it anyway, right? But they were still debunking themselves, right? But and even up to today, they try and argue refraction stupidly, but it's dishonest. Some of them, well, most of them don't know their own model, so they think that it's that 7/6R, what they call standard refraction, or terra firma, terrestrial refraction. That should give it away, right? Has something to do with light and temperature and density of the air and Snell's law, everything, right, to do with actual refraction. But none of 7/6R has anything to do with that. It's a physical change in the size of the globe, but due to an extension of the radius, right? So we'll come back to this photo in a while, right? I just want to show here. So this green arc here is part of a circle with a radius of 3,440 nautical miles, right, which would be 3959 miles, right? I used 3959. This blue and red dot, right? The distance, I just put a distance between those two. I'm not sure if they took in the arc length or just a straight chord line. It doesn't matter for the demonstration. Is between B and D is 1295, right? So on a globe, this is an observer here, and this is the location they're looking at, right? Then this is the distance between the two locations, between the observer's location and whatever they're trying to see, right? So let's just say they can see this, right? Right, this location here. Now, when 7/6R is added, it changes, right? The distance between the observer and the location, because it inflates the globe. So instead of it being 1295, it becomes 1511, right? So it instantly changes the distance between the observer and the location, right? But our opposition have never, ever, in any observation, ever taken that into account. They've always placed the location, at the same distance from the observer, but yet increased the size of their globe to basically the whole point of 7/6R, and because it's very rarely even 7/6R, it's normally way more than that they have to use, because the whole point of it is to basically create a somewhat semi-horizontal out of the surface of the globe. So, but they never change the position, or they never adhere to the correct position of the place or destination they're looking at. So if you add 7/6R to this observation between this blue dot here and this red dot down here, Then when you add 7 over 6r, then the distance between the two increases, right? Because this orange line has a radius of 4,618.83 statute miles. This green line here has a radius of 3,959 miles. But what they want to do is increase the size of their globe, but keep the distance between the observer and the location they're looking at. So they want. I just see if I could just get a segment line. Oh, sorry, I'm messing that up. Segment. So what they want is take here and bring that up to here. That's what they want to do. So they're looking to keep this red dot or this red location here. They're looking to keep that at the same distance from the observer, but to flatten out the surface between the observer and the location they're looking at. Right. So I'll just make this red like the rest of them. Right. I'll make it orange to differentiate, or I'll just make it actually purple. So that's the thing. So this red location here should be further on, but it never is. They've never ever taken that into account. They always try to make their globe bigger and straighten out the surface of their globe, but they always want to keep the distance between the observer and the location equal. You can't do that. If you half blow up a balloon and with a marker you place 2 points on that balloon, then you further blow it up, those 2 points will stretch further apart. It's just a law of geometry. So if I come back from this, right, and let's just say we double the radius of the globe. So instead of it being 3,959 miles, we double it, right? So if it's 3,440 nautical miles, then it's 6,880 nautical miles if it's doubled. So here we have a circle with it doubled, and the distance between these 2 points, whether it's on the arc or whether it's across the arc or whether it's just a chord, doesn't matter for the reasons of explanation. The distance is 2,591. So let's get the calculator, and we will do that, right? 2,591. So 2,591, right? Minus 1,295. 1,295 equals 1,296, right? So 1,296, which is basically double. You're basically doubling the distance between these two here, right? So between the blue and the red here, the blue and the red here, there's double the distance. So if you were to need more than 7 over 6r to explain your observation, which they constantly do have to do. They even got as far as, I think one of them, I won't say who, was claiming infinite over 6r when it came to observations like the Black Swan. They infinite over 6r, so there was no limit to it, right? So even if it's just double the size, right, you have a 1,256 difference. So if they needed to add in refraction that would double the size, what they would call refraction, which is not, but 7 over 6 and more than 7 over 6 or their standard, what they call standard or terrestrial refraction, then what that would do is double the distance between the observer and the location. But what they won't do that. What they will do is this. They will take this and bring a line from here up to there, right? Let's just say, right? So they will bring it here and we'll make that red and we'll make it bigger, right? and they will try and use the surface between these 2 points, trying to use this extension of the radius to flatten out the surface, and but keep the points the same distance apart between the observer and the location. But they should be double the distance if you're using refraction, if you're using a what they call standard or terrestrial refraction to actually increase the size of our globe. The word refraction shouldn't be in there because it's not refraction. Basically, they should have double the distance then between the observer and the location they're observing, but they don't. They're going to try and keep the same distance, but you can't do that. And the biggest joke of all is this, right? For this observation here, for this to work on a globe Earth, right? For a start, the horizon, due to the distance the horizon is from the observer with a 1 foot observer height, that would mean that the radius would have to be the distance between the globe Earth and the moon within the heliocentric moon. So I think the radius of it is 2040 miles. So I think it's even further than the heliocentric moon, which I think is 230,000 miles between the globe Earth and the heliocentric moon. And I think it was 250,000 miles of a radius or something like that. It would have to be, or the circumference would have to be for this horizon to work on the globe model. So not only should these platforms be way behind the horizon here, right? They should be way stretched out further from the horizon, because if this was an observation on the globe, and if 7/6 or 6 of a radius or anything more than that was possible, then these should be way back past this horizon, way past it. And they would have to increase the radius of their globe to a ridiculous size. It's total nonsense. This here is the horizon. It's an optical location. It has nothing to do with geometry. It's purely optical phenomena. The platform habitat and platform hill house, they are in the positions they've always been in, regardless of where the horizon is. They don't change their position. They're always constant. Platform hill house is always 6.2 miles away from the shore. Platform habitat is always 9.4 miles away from the shore. The horizon changes its position because it's only optical, but the oil platforms never change their position. So this is, I don't see any way out of it for our opposition. They never ever take this fact into account. They want to make all kinds of silly claims, but they will never ever, regardless of how much 7/6 or more they add, they will always try to keep their observed location at the same distance from the observer. But you can't do that. If you're increasing the size of your globe Earth, just like you increase the size of a balloon with 2 points on it, then the 2 points will be further apart. That's just a law of geometry. There's no way out of it. Just a fact. So if you can imagine that the distance between these two locations is double the distance, just because it doubled the radius, it doubled the distance between these two locations. So that would mean that if this was, let's just say this was the platforms, the platforms would have to be back here. If this was to go by, if this here was, if this here was the horizon, the platforms would have to be back here. If you understand what I mean. If you had to make the globe Earth big enough to match just the Black Swan photograph, and this obviously this circle is not big enough to match that. This is way smaller because it only has a radius of 6,880 nautical miles. whereas the Black Swan would have a monstrous, well over 200,000 nautical mile radius or something like that. So it's crazy. Like there's no way around it. No way around this for them. They never want to change the distance between the observer and the chosen location, but they want to change the size of their globe to flatten it out because we don't live on a globe. Everything is horizontal. You view everything horizontally. We don't live on a globe, so we never experience curvature. We never have ever or will ever experience it. No one can ever prove it, could ever or will ever prove it because it doesn't exist. Because if what they're claiming existed, if standard terrestrial refraction, as they call it, existed, then if this is the observer and this is the location, then if they're claiming that this is the actual distance between these two, then when they increase their radius value, then it has to increase the distance between the observer and the location. But they've never taken that into account. They've never even thought of it possibly. There's no way out of this for them. If you look back on every observation they ever claimed fit a globe, go back before the Black Swan time, and each one of them they'll be claiming all kinds of standard and terrestrial refraction ratios, but they'll never change the distance between the observer and the location. They'll always try and keep that distance to match a global radius of 3959 miles, but yet they'll be changing the actual size of the surface of their globe. The circumference of their globe will be changing in size, but they'll want to keep the distance between the observer and the location equal. Something that is just a geometric impossibility. Okay, that's enough of that. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you understood it. Thank you.